You are listening to The Insider with Brian Lloyd. The opinions expressed are that of the individuals and can sometimes be of an adult nature.
On this week's Insider podcast, we're talking to Hannah Shields and Ian Taylor. These are two mountaineers who climbed Everest. We're talking about the new film Everest, starring Jason Clarke, Jake Gyllenhaal, Keira Knightley. It's about an expedition in 1996 that went to the top of Everest, but as you can imagine, ended in disaster. I talked to Hannah Shields and Ian Taylor about their experiences on Everest, the actual physical challenges that come with it, and just, how realistic the film was compared to actually climbing Everest. So, take a look.
Guys, thanks for talking to us. The film Everest, obviously, it's about mountain climbing. It's about, really putting your body on the line. The two of you have been, to the top of Everest. This might seem like a stupid question, but why? Why would you put yourself through that? Is it just purely just for the competition of it, like the kind of battling yourself, or
I would argue that it's, me personally, it was a culmination of a lot of things, from being told for a lot of the time that you're not good enough, to want to test myself. And Everest just kind of happened for me as a chance opportunity, sitting on the back of a bus in Peru, and some girl was talking about climbing Everest, and myself and my friend looked at each other and said, well, if she thinks she can do it, we can do it. And out of that conversation, 3 years later, we're standing at the top of Everest. And for me, it was all about that. It was all about wanting to achieve something for myself personally. On the end of it all, it's totally changed my life in terms of what I actually do now for other people. But for me at the time, it was kind of selfish, but it was about me achieving something that would help me figure out who I was and what I wanted to be.
Yeah. How about you, Anna?
I had the great pleasure of being out in 1993 with the first Irish expedition, Dawson Fox and Frank Nugent and the gang. And I was just a trekker. That's all I was, scared of heights. I had no intentions of doing anything. And I remember going up and seeing Chungmalungma, Mount Everest, in its entirety from the north side. And I remember my stomach did the biggest Irish jig you can possibly imagine. Because I remember just looking up at the mountain, and I knew with certainty, I went, oh God, I'm going to climb that. And I knew, I don't know why. And I thought, why? You're scared of heights, you can't climb. But I just felt she was a beautiful mountain. There was a great pool. I was with a great group of people. And I went, right, I'm going to climb. And I said it to the fellas, and they all laughed a wee bit to begin with. But then whenever they saw I was being serious, they went, right, okay, you're going to climb this. We will help you. And I was very lucky because I had that behind me then, and I had the support from all the fellas and the guidance from them. But it was just because I saw the mountain. I'd read about it, but I always thought it was fit young men that climbed, next to Mount Everest. It wasn't women from Kilrea in Northern Ireland that climbed them. So yes, I was very privileged and very honoured that I managed to do it safely and get back down again.
I mean, they say that, there's that kind of, that all kind of I suppose it's a cliche, but mountain climbing is it's the loneliest sport in the world. But the two of you, you did it with a team. Obviously, when you're in this kind of massive, scale environment and all the rest of it, the pressures of trying to, just actually get to the top and actually survive must really kind of take a toll on the team as such, is it? I mean, has that been the case for the 2 years?
Well, you experience?
I definitely think,
you must be pulling at each other.
I met a friend, so I climbed with a friend of mine, and we were a team as a two. When we started out, there were 6 people. It went down to 4 people, then it went to 2 people, then it went back up to 3, then back to 2. And the 2 of us that went in 2008 were friends since we were 9. And, if I'm going to be honest, about, for 4 months after, we struggled in our relationship. He didn't make it, I did. It probably went on longer than that. It probably took me about 6 to 8 months to actually come back to, it was strange being on the top of Everest on the 23rd of May and being back in Dublin Airport on the 31st of May on a bank holiday weekend, and people are there filming us and wishing us, and you're trying to then, the next day I wake up, I'm back to normal. I have to go back to work. I have to get back to a normal life. That probably took me about 6 months to kind of just get my head in the right space. I think in terms of the team, my buddy was with me, all the way up the mountain. If he hadn't been there with me, I don't think I would have made it to that point. And when we were at the 26,000 feet on the South Col, where all these guys had their, this amazing story was told, most of it. You know, he fell into a tent, and I have it on camera, and he's like crying, I don't think I can do it. He cracked 2 ribs, you know, Hannah's cracked ribs when she was on Everest, and that's a natural part of the process. You know, 40% of people had this kumbu cough from the dry, cold air, and you're in this kind of cosmos of, you know, survival. You're in this heightened state of fear, and you're with your teammate, and that got me to a certain point, but then really that last section of the mountain was really a very lonely experience. And you know, I did have a Sherpa climber with me. That was of great encouragement to me going up the mountain, and kind of really convinced me to actually to keep going. But in saying that, it was a very, you know, a guy in front of me went blind on the summit ridge, almost pulled me off the mountain. 2 people went up and never came back. A Swiss climber died in the tent right next to us. And you're being told all this as you're about to prepare for this most dangerous summit night on Everest. So it becomes I became very insular in my thought process. And I was trying to, you have to figure it out for myself, that I had to really self-believe, really motivate myself. The 2 of us are trying to do it for each other, but at a certain point on the mountain, every step that you're taking is the most important thing that you're doing. Even when the blind guy was Martin, who had been moved around us, I'd totally forgotten about him, because what was important for me, because I'm on a 1/2 meter wide ridge with a 10,000 foot drop on my right and 8,000 foot drop on my left, I have to focus on every step. So that I became internally focused on every single moment. And that was what was really important. So the team element, I suppose you could argue, goes out the door a little bit on that top part and that dangerous part of the mountain, because you can only really help yourself. Even if I was in trouble or my friend was in trouble, there's no way I could pick him up. If you can't walk, you can't move. And it's like being 100 years old. You know, people can barely think straight up there. And it's a challenge. You're in that real heightened state of fear, and you have to become insular and trust in your own ability and who you are.
And was that the same for you, Hannah, as well? Yeah.
Well, I went out with a second Irish expedition in 2003 with Jeremy McDonnell and McMurphy and Pat Falvey and Claire O'Leary. And it was wonderful because, again, we were a very strong team together. We had trained a lot together. And by the time we were going for summit, and also it was only the 4 of us, myself and the 3 fellas, and I was leading the climb at that stage. I was ahead of them, but I had bad frostbitten feet and frostbitten hands. And I was very much summit fever. I was going for the summit at all costs. I thought, I don't care if I lose feet, hands, I'll retrain to do something else, I'll not be a dentist. Then there was a moment of clarity whenever I got to an area that I realised that I was going to put myself in danger. That didn't bother me, because it went, my choice. But I knew Ger, Mick, Pat, I knew if I got into trouble, I would be putting their lives at risk. And that's whenever there was a moment of clarity, I went, you don't put anybody else's life at risk. So instead of, again, I thought, come back to fight another day. So I came back in 2007 with a group of Russian men who I met at the airport, who were absolutely marvellous. But they smoked and they drank vodka the whole way up the mountain, and they smoked and they drank vodka the whole way back down the mountain. It was like double ultra every morning. I was, hiya lads, not an awful lot of communication, but there was a lot of trust. They were good climbers. We climbed with each other. I trusted them, they trusted me, and so there was just the 5 of us going for the summit, and we all reached there, thankfully, safely, and back down again. But again, yes, and that last, I was going around an area where I had to unclip to because I couldn't reach the point, and I fell. And the only thing that stopped me from my death was I grabbed an old bit of rope. And I remember just crying and realising there's no one here to help you. And that was my survival instincts kicked in. To this day, I still don't know how I managed to get myself back up, clipped on. And at that stage, I knew this was the last big step on the north side. I went, do you go back or do you go on? I went, you're going on. Not at any risk, but you're going on. So luckily enough, and safely.
I mean, there is something like kind of like almost fatalist about it, like, you know, that sort of way that you are. I mean, I know we kind of touched on this already, like, but I mean, is that like I read some statistics about it, like, I mean, it's no trip, like, I mean, you are really putting your body on the line, and there is a very high percentage of people that do die, like, I mean, does that like I just does it give you pause? I mean, I know you had to attempt it a couple of times, but like, I mean,
it's a calculated risk.
Yeah.
And we don't do any, we're not stupid. We love our lives. We love our
absolutely.
lives a lot.
Yeah.
So it's a calculated risk, and you prepare for every scenario that you think is going to be possible so that you can cope with it. And that's where good training comes in.
Yeah.
And I believe that you have to be competent so that there's less chance of something happening that you make a mistake, because unfortunately you make a mistake, it sounds terribly dramatic, but you die.
Yeah. And what kind of training did you go through? Like, I mean, I know we were talking off camera about, working around Glendalough and all that sort of thing. Like, just what was your experience of it?
I was training 3 hours a day, so 5 days a week, and then on the sixth day I would build from like 5 to 8 hours in the hills. So I think initially I started doing the Spink in Glendalough is a 9 kilometer trail. When I was a kid, I used to look at that and think I could never do that. And by the end of my training, I was running that in 3 times in one day with a weighted backpack on, only with like 10 kilos. But that wasn't the most important part of the training. It was actually carrying the heavier backpacks, getting in the slow, getting that muscle memory. But that would help me on Everest. But yeah, 3 hours a day in the gym. I would do an hour in the Stairmaster, probably walk uphill for an hour. You're way fitter than I am. And then I would do an hour of weights or an hour on the bike.
Yeah.
And then, but I was always carrying weighted backpack, trying to build up the strength of my legs, build up my body.
Yeah.
And then that's what I did, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then a long day in the hills in Wicklow. Yeah. And then obviously benchmarking my fitness. We climbed 4 mountains on 4 continents to build a school in Africa before we went to Everest as the 4th mountain. So we would, every 3 months, take on a climb. We would go to 5,000 meters, then 6, then 7, and then Everest. So we were training ourselves on different mountains as we went to prepare ourselves and then benchmark our fitness off that. So we got a little bit scientific. We did some VO2 max testing in Trinity and really kind of pushed got our training program around that kind of, how much lactic acid we're pushing into our muscles and what heart rate we were doing that at and doing all that stuff. So you know more about that stuff than I do. That's what we were doing. That's how I really took a scientific approach to it, because I was worried. I didn't want to die.
Yeah.
I wanted to do everything. As you're talking about, there's 100 things that can kill you. You're trying to knock all those, mitigate that and try and cut that down to the minimum risk that you can possibly have. And that's what I was trying to do.
How about for you?
I'm afraid it was the hills of Donegal and a big rucksack. Oh God, that was me the old-fashioned way. I just went up and down Errigal 20 times with my rucksack on. I was working 5 days a week, so it was a weekend, sort of Saturday, Sunday, rucksack in the back, heavy pack on, and up and down the mountains.
Jesus. I mean, we're talking about it now, and like I say, you're a dentist and you're doing your stuff as well. I mean, obviously, this must have an effect on your personal lives afterwards. Can you speak to that a little bit? I mean, how it affected you after when you came down? Like,
well, it's we all make choices. I certainly made a choice that I loved the mountaineering, and it does affect relationships because your partners have to be terribly understanding. Because, in a way, it is a very selfish existence because we're going out, we're the ones that are going away, and it's the people at home that are worried about you. But I was always very blessed. I had people who understood that. But for me, it was going out, sort of climbing, enjoying it, having great crack with the people that I was with. I think that was the most important. I wanted to enjoy it and I was always with amazing teammates. And so it was an unbelievable experience, summiting safely. Safety was the most important thing. But then once it was over, it was back straight into work again. Had to earn the money to keep doing the next one. Nobody was paying me to do it, so I had to earn the money. So it was hard to come right back in and get 2 days off and then straight back into dental practice to hear somebody complain about having a sore tooth, and I'm kind of going,
there's bigger things in the world.
But that was important to them, so you had to appreciate that's where it was, and it was straight back into it. But that's why I especially, I love those months that whenever you're away, because you could turn off, there's no radio, there was no TV, you were able to just concentrate in the mountains, and it was a very Zen-like approach because you just loved the quiet and being able to turn off. And I find that lovely, just being grounding and bringing back to a very basic existence.
But in that though, it obviously must be, I'm saying coming back to it, it must be, just a wall of just information and just all hitting you that way, because you're as you say, you're in such a singular experience. I mean, there is nothing in the world like it, and then having to come back to more mundane experience. Like, I mean, does that colour it? Like, I mean, does doing Everest change how you view the rest of your life?
Well, absolutely. Personally, I had to move back in with my parents for 3 years because I didn't have the money to pay for rent.
Yeah.
I was working at the time 5 days a week. I sacrificed so much. We were building a school in Uganda. We were climbing all these mountains, doing all this training. I put everything on hold. I was single. The only people I had to worry about were disappointing my parents and my family and coming home. On the way back then, you put all this, my point is that you put all this commitment in, this time, this energy, this sheer focus on one thing, and then when you come back, nobody really cares. So it's like, and people don't get, like, you have this experience for yourself to develop and help you and change you and bring you to another level, which it has done for me personally. But nobody can really understand that. Or standing on the top of any mountain, whether it's the Sugarloaf, Carrantoul, Everest, nobody can ever understand or quantify what that actually means to a person. And it's a personal experience that nobody should understand and nobody needs to understand. The issue is definitely integrating back into that world of what the hell do I do now? Because that's what we were lucky to come back to focus on raising more money for the school we were building. So we had a kind of a secondary thing, but for probably a few weeks or months, I was lost. I went back to work. Nobody really cared. I remember walking in the corridor and someone said, "Oh, congratulations on your trek."
I know that's
hang on a second. And in my head, I'm like, hang on a second, you don't even know anything about me or what I went through. Let me tell you, because that was what was in me. And I didn't really, I kind of, over time, and maybe that's a bit of ego too, but over time I kind of realized, look, there's other bigger issues than me climbing Everest. I need to use that experience for the betterment of other people and myself, and that's what I ended up turning that energy into, rather than that kind of, look what I did type of a thing. So yeah, it was hard integrating back. I think it was definitely a challenge for me.
It was actually quite difficult for me the first time, because it was the first thing I didn't achieve it the first time. I came back, I felt gutted. I just felt I let so many people down. I was a high achiever and I didn't achieve it. And there's a lot of people, well, why didn't you? And I'm going,
just didn't happen.
And there was one wee gentleman, he was so funny, he sort of turned around and said, "How long were you away for?" And I said, "I was away for 2 months." And he went, "I thought you'd be up and down in a weekend." And I'm going,
do you really know?
But I didn't take it. I just realised that's, I have, as you rightly say, I have to let people know what this is like. So it's more about education people. And if people were interested, I wanted them to know what it was like and why it took so long, so that they had an understanding of it as well. So I think that's one of the things I love doing, is informing people and encouraging people to push themselves out of their comfort zone. Because if you do that, it's amazing what you can achieve.
Okay, final question. Would you do it again?
If you're going to pay for it, yeah. You offering?
No, I'm not. How about you?
I think personally, I lead trips to base camp. I've led 14 trips. I've climbed Kilimanjaro 18 times. I've been up, you name it. I've been up at Everest. I would say no. 50% of me flirts with the idea of having that experience again, because you can't experience, that experience is so intense, it's hard to experience it anywhere else. So part of me would like to have that experience again, and then the other part of me, 50%, would say no way. My wife is interested in climbing maybe in a few years' time, and if she decides to go, I'll have to go back. There's no way I can let her go on her own. So we'll see. We'll see. Okay. But at the moment, I would say no.
But go to see the movie.
Go see the movie.
Go see the movie.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
It's better. It gives you, I hope, a better understanding.
I think the cinematography looks, from what I've seen, it looks amazing,
and
it looks accurate rather than a lot of these.
I think that's
and then these are real life stories, and I think they're probably told from a range of different views, and hopefully it encompasses all that for people. I think they're going to enjoy it.
Cool. Okay, guys, thanks, Mel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.